Hello there, Johannes of Whiskey Lore, and time for another whiskey tasting. Today, headed to Scotland, Scottish distilleries, and we are going to Glenglassaugh, which is up here, which according to this map is in Speyside, but in reality it is a Highland whiskey, and it comes from the family of distilleries between Glendronach, Benriach, and then Glenglassaugh. Glenglassaugh, right on the North Sea, picks up a little bit of the sea character in their whiskeys. A distillery I definitely want to go visit because everybody keeps telling me how wonderful it is, that it's this hidden gem in Scotland. And the whiskeys that come out of there are full-bodied. And I always talk about the kind of joke about Glenglassaugh made whiskey that was so good that blenders didn't know what to do with it. They couldn't work with it when blends were so popular. So they kept mothballing the place because of that. If you want to learn all about Glenglassaugh, I actually talked with Rory Glasgow, who is the brand ambassador here in the US for Brown-Forman, who is the owner of Glenglassaugh, Benriach, and Glendronach. And so we did a joint interview and talked about the history of Benriach and Glenglassaugh together, and then did a tasting of 3 of their whiskeys. Now, I said that I'm re-reviewing a few whiskeys, or actually doing initial reviews in this format for some whiskeys that I would like to potentially include in my year-end bracketology that I'm going to be doing here on video, which will be a little bracket down to comparison tastings down to my favorite whiskey of the year at the end, and that'll be coming up in December. And so this is a whiskey that is not, I didn't review it this year, so I need to do it to have it eligible to be on the bracketology. 46% ABV. There is a lot of fruit on the nose on this whiskey. Kind of a melon scent coming in. Raspberry is something I pick up pretty quickly on this. Raisins, baking cinnamon that you get in there as well. So this is aged in red wine casks, first fill bourbon casks, and then racked. Not sure what that means. I have to go back and look at my notes. Racked in sherry casks. So a lot of different influences going on in this particular whiskey. And we should be expecting some of those sherried wine notes in here, and definitely getting that raisin on the nose. And what's interesting is that there's this air of sea saltiness that kind of runs over this. And there's not a lot of whiskeys. I like Old Pulteney is one that I get that salty character in, and I definitely get it on this whiskey. Cheers. I love this distillery. Oh, raisins, big time, come through on that palate. And it's milky. I mean, it is just a milky whiskey. You almost don't want it to go down your throat. You just want to hold it there and really just enjoy the experience. And it is, you get a little grain note in there, you get a little chocolate note in there, but the raisin really stands out. Then as you swallow it, you get a little cinnamon red hot that pops in there and kind of pulls into the show, with a little bit of that oak note coming back in on the end. But the only way I could kind of term the sensation as I was drinking it, and this sweetness note that came in that was fruity, was it was almost like Kool-Aid. I mean, like strawberry Kool-Aid. But then it's interesting because I don't think of heavy body and Kool-Aid. It just, the two don't go together. So it's just a really, really nice experience. The first fill barrel bourbon barrels, I think, are imparting a little bit of a toffee note towards the end. But other than that, I think the bourbon barrel is just kind of there to get a couple years on these whiskeys, and then the rest is all coming from the red wine and from the sherry. That's a very good whiskey, and I think it might sneak into my top 20. It's going to have a partner too, because Torfa from Glenglassaugh is in that list already. So we'll see if it makes the cut, but this is definitely a very good whiskey. So I don't know why I keep it hidden in my shelf. It's been sitting on the top shelf in my whiskey cabinet, and I haven't really thought about grabbing it. I guess because Torfa has a personality to me that hit me immediately. Maybe I wasn't in the mood for sherry when I was first tasting this, but man, this is definitely, I tasted the Jack Daniel's American Single Malt the other day and said, wow, it was like a sherry atomic bomb. I don't know that I go that far with this, but it definitely, the sherry is doing a lot of nice work on it, and it's tamed a little bit by the red wine. So excellent dram, excellent. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Maybe learned something along the way. I'm sure you've probably seen this bottle on your shelf, because when I go into my store, always seems to be a stray bottle of Glenglassaugh somewhere on the shelf, and maybe it's worth paying attention to. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a like if you did, and subscribe if you'd like to watch more. Ring the bell if you want to know as soon as I put new videos out. And until next time, cheers and Slainte. Rich, decadent. I mean, it really is. You probably need to have a little bit of a sweet tooth on this one. It's a little bit of a sweet tooth, but it's not overly aggressive. But man, it is a fruit bomb is what it is. Ooh, and that melon coming through again. Very, very interesting.